If you are from Sydney or Melbourne, you will be accustomed to and more likely comfortable with the auction process. When I first started auctioning property on the Gold Coast 20 odd years ago, it was not commonplace, and as such I encountered a lot of resistance from sellers, initially anyway. The thoughts of auction conjure up different sentiments and reactions from people dependent on whether they're looking at it from a seller's or buyer's perspective. Traditionally, many viewed auctions as a type of fire sale or a distressed sale used in such circumstances as foreclosures or mortgagee in possession sales. That is no longer the case, and it hasn't been for many years. When I hear somebody say, "I don't like auctions," it simply tells me they don't fully understand the modern day auction process. And as human beings, if we don't understand something, we have a tendency to fear it or at least avoid it. If you are thinking about selling your property, please allow me to explain why you should consider auction. But before I get into it, a quick disclaimer. I am an advocate of the auction process, so long as this process is run properly, professionally, strategically, and transparently. If managed correctly, there is no negative whatsoever to the auction process that cannot be avoided, managed, or mitigated. If I'm selling my own property, my parents' home, or my best friend's house, I am going to recommend auction. And here's why. For starters, auctions allow us to market and sell your home without a price. This avoids the risk of underpricing it, and it also avoids the risk of overpricing it, where it risks sitting on the market for an extended period of time and becoming stale or overexposed. An asking price is often the first thing that gets in the way of a sale. When we market your home without a price, buyers cannot say it's too expensive or the house down the road is on at $50,000 less. With no asking price, buyers are forced to judge your home based on what it has to offer, not judge it on price alone. This provides us or your agent with the ability to ask an all-powerful question. If you got this property at the right price, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, would you consider it? Immediately, this puts the buyer into a purchasing mindset. Auctions signal to the market that you are very serious, you are committed to selling. This is attractive to buyers. This increases the chances of buyers looking seriously at your property. Such perception feeds very well into an attraction-based marketing program. Structure. The sale of your property must be managed as a standalone project. Any well-run project requires structure and organization. If you don't have organization, you have disorder. The auction process is very structured. Once ready to go, we have a launch date and we have an end date or sale date. This is auction day. Such structure enhances buyer focus and allows us to hold their attention. Depending on the duration of your auction campaign, which should not exceed 3 weeks, this focus fuels an expectation of selling and creates genuine buyer urgency. If you have a property that you believe will or should attract more than one buyer, it makes sense to put these buyers into an environment where they are competing against each other, initially anyway, as opposed to directly against you. This not only takes you out of the firing line, this competition can really push your selling price upwards. At auction, you are protected by your reserve price. Your reserve is essentially the minimum price you are prepared to accept to have your property sold on the day. If this price is met or exceeded and that hammer comes down, your sale is immediately unconditional. It is not subject to finance, building and pest inspections, cooling off periods, and so on. It is done and dusted. Up goes that sold sticker or success sticker. Now, please understand, if you achieve a cash unconditional sale within 2 or 3 weeks, that is something to celebrate, and you should rightly feel very proud. If, however, it does not sell under the hammer at auction, this is not a failed campaign. This is sometimes part of the process. If we don't sell at the live auction, we simply transition into what I call phase 2 of the process. This is post-auction, and this is okay. The only difference now is we speak to and negotiate with buyers on a one-on-one basis. But the probability of having actual buyers to negotiate with is far greater as a result of a well-run auction program. Your agent might be a great negotiator. I believe my negotiating ability ranks as one of my greatest strengths. But this ability has no value to you as my client unless I have buyers sitting across the table from me. If we don't sell at auction, we will usually do so very shortly thereafter. One last point I'll make. At times, sellers are concerned that some buyers are unwilling to or might not be able to participate at auction because they don't like the auction process, or they're not ready, or they don't have their finance approved. If a qualified buyer likes your property and they are managed correctly by your agent, the auction process will not deter them. If they are just not ready or don't have their finance sorted, they are not a buyer, not yet anyway. They are merely an observer. How many times do you see property sales fall over because the buyer fails to get finance? This is so bad for the seller and the integrity of that listing. Not only does it add to the seller's stress, it puts question marks over the quality of the listing. It compromises market perception. As a seller, you want to be dealing with and only with qualified, finance-approved buyers. So there you go, a little bit to digest. But in a nutshell, if performed and managed well, auctions are a great way to sell your property.